The first thing that I would tell you is that you've already answered the question by saying he's ready and he's eager and he's competent. And once you have that situation and you realize looking in the mirror that you don't have the get up and go that you once had for the business, then both parties recognize it's time to move forward. I always am a student of history, and I love taking a look at what's going on in the government. And, you know, every 4 to 8 years, we have a transition of power at the CEO level of the United States. And no matter what side of the parties you're on, the passing of the torch goes pretty well from one administration to another, even when there's a change in party. And so if we can do that at the President of the United States level, I'm sure the position that you're in can be done just as well, if not better. Now, the key, as I heard the question cited, was this: to figure out what your next move is. The hesitancy that you're exhibiting in your question is that you haven't figured out what your new true north is. What is it that's going to motivate, inspire you to get up out of bed with excitement? And so sit down and design the life that you want, post the one that you previously had running your business. And when you have that and you're excited about that, it will be like, I can't wait to move on to my next adventure. And you are all about adventures. So go pursue your adventure.
Okay, so you're in a business during this time that you've owned for 20, 30 years, and it's hard to let go of it. I mean, as an entrepreneur, and I work with a lot of family business entrepreneurs, that this is your baby. You gave birth to it, you've nurtured it, you've grown it, you've made it successful. Many times your identity is tied to your company so strongly, there's almost no sunlight between those things. So step one is it's really, really, really hard to let go of a company you built. And some people can't do it, which is a shame, because typically what happens is the company outgrows you and you can no longer manage it. Or in this particular question, you've gotten burned out. You've been doing it for 30 years and this crisis has exacerbated that, and you're ready to just take a little bit of a break, but it's hard to let go of the company and it's hard to trust the new person you're going to hand it over to. But if you're in a situation where you finally say, I'm ready to let go of this, it's going to be painful, but I can make the break and I've got a great number two who's going to come in and do an amazing job, then the idea then is to sit down with that other person, and I'm going to say this in a way that probably don't, with attorneys present, not because you're going to, just because you want to go through the really tough discussions and questions while you're not emotional, before something goes wrong and all of a sudden you get mad at each other. So talk it through and basically create a deal where you know that you're going to hand it over to them, because you don't want to start to announce this before it happens, because I've seen that happen where, you know, Bob, I always go with Bob's taking over the company. And then all of a sudden you get in an argument or something and the lawyers get arguing and it doesn't happen. And then typically you have to fire Bob and keep the company yourself. We don't want to do that to Bob. So once you've got it legally set up and you're going to do it, I'm going to tell you right now, unless the entire company is built on your reputation and your relationships with your customers, everything will likely be fine. If it is, it's going to be a multi-year transition. But the continuity of saying, you know, Bob's been here for 10 years. He's been really running it most of the time. He ran it great while I was away for a while. I've been doing this 35 years. I'm ready to step back. I'm going to stay for 18 months or so and make the transition. And then Bob's going to be running the company. I have very rarely seen a staff or a client have a hard time with that, as long as they trust and respect the number two who's coming in. And they see that the business is going to continue on the general path. It's not going to change dramatically. Now, let me give you one more piece of advice. This is from personal experience. The minute you step down as owner, CEO, or whatever, everything that goes wrong would be blamed on you. And 18 months or 24 months later, let's say after you leave, no one will remember you very much. And that sounds harsh, but I've seen lots of CEOs, myself included, when I ran one of the Rockefeller Foundations. When I announced my resignation, I got uninvited to black tie parties, fundraisers, this, that, and the other, because I no longer was the CEO and I did not have access to Mr. Rockefeller. And immediately my value to them was zero. And it was hurtful when all these people said, we just don't want, we've been friends for 10 years. Now we don't care if we see it all or not. Realize as an owner or CEO or anybody that steps out of a business, 2 years later, if you're good and leave your hands off it, no one will remember. And that's hard, but it's just the truth.